had been turned around, I would have said, oh, hey, Joe. It's Mo. It is Sunday, May 25th, which means, no, it's Monday. Oh my God. It's Monday, May 25th, which means we are deep into Memorial Day weekend, which is the start of summer. But you would not be able to tell it from outside because it has been raining and gloomy and dark all weekend. So I meant to start this video on Saturday, but I didn't end up filming, partly because it was dark. Like, I always think I don't want to film when it's dark because I only use natural lighting, and my computer, this is my computer screen that's like glowing at me right now. I do have a ring light, but usually like if I'm out in the living room or whatever, I'm still just only using natural light. So I kind of didn't want to film, and also like it was just kind of a lazy weekend so far. On Saturday we went out to get burritos and we got cat food and we did some chores, and then yesterday went out and got sushi, which I didn't take any footage of, but we were craving sushi, and our local sushi joint is usually pretty hopping on weekends like this, but we went early enough that we knew we would be able to get in. And then we picked up some bread because we're going to eat lasagna tonight, which I am very excited for. Every year for Christmas, my dad makes us lasagna and we eat it at Christmas time, but then we also get to take one home. So it has been in the freezer for 5.5 months, 6 months. I'm still currently reading for Mini May, and I have finished 2 books so far this weekend. I finished 7 Empty Houses by Samanta Schweblin. This is the second Samanta Schweblin that I've read. I also read Little Eyes, and I absolutely loved it.
There's smoke in the hallway. The alarm may sound. It's going to be loud.
Smoke alarm going off. My fault. Boiled my coffee over. So where was I? 7 Empty Houses. So I read Little Eyes a few years ago, like quite a few years ago now, which I loved. And this is a collection of short stories, and they all have to do with 7 empty houses. Duh, that makes sense. There's only 7 short stories. Most of these are short, but one of them is quite long. I would say like novella length, certainly. And that one I do think was like the most tedious story and my least favorite. This is called Breath from the Depths, and it was, you know, the majority of this book, definitely more of a novella than a short story in my opinion. My favorites were probably None of That and 2 Square Feet. These all have themes of dependency, codependency, autonomy. These all have themes of relationships. These all have themes of relationships to houses. These are all very slightly creepy, a little unsettling. I think actually my favorite was An Unlucky Man. A lot of them were good. They're all unsettling. I wouldn't necessarily call them horror, even though I would definitely call Little Eyes horror. Unless you count like actual living life horror. You know, there's ones about people's parents with mental illness. There's ones about narrators with mental illness. There's ones about relationships gone wrong. There's one about potential predators or lack thereof. There's ones about being ignored by your family. So just the horror of everyday life, I guess. But a lot of them are quite unsettling. So I really did enjoy this, and I can't wait to read more from Samanta Schweblin. I would really like to get to all her backlist at some point. 7 Empty Houses was translated from the Spanish by Meghan McDowell. And then I read my graphic novel for the month. I read Spy Family Volume 2 by Tatsuya Endo, and this is translated from the Japanese by Casey Lowe. And this is the second in the Spy Family series, which is a series of manga about a spy, Twilight, who has to take on a new persona as Lloyd Forager. And in this new persona, he needs to infiltrate a prestigious boarding school. So he also needs to gather a family around him. He finds a little girl at an orphanage. He does want ads for a new wife, but unknown to him, the little girl that he picks is psychic, and the wife that he picks is an assassin. So he's kind of battling for the peace of the nation where he lives, which has 2 sides, like a good side and a bad side. You're unclear throughout this series if Lloyd is actually a good guy. I mean, I think he is, but it's very nebulous, like what bad things have happened and what side is bad. And I think it's commentary on that, like probably both sides do bad things. The other side against Lloyd is worse right now because they're like torturing people and stuff, but you just don't know what the like greater repercussions of this good versus evil or bad versus bad really is going to be. These are cute. I do like them. Everybody on the internet loves them. I have not read a lot of manga, so I like stretching that muscle and reading in an unfamiliar manner. It is hard for me to get into reading the correct way. There's some funny moments in these. There's some silly moments in these. The art is very cute. The premise is cute because one thing that Twilight is always struggling with is that he is doing this for people like the family that he's pretending to be. He's trying to make the world a better place for families and for children and the ease of life of a normal family or normal people, but he is not normal. So one thing that he always comes back to is the idea of taking care of this family is just as important as his missions. This is the second one that I've read. This is the second one that I have, so I don't have any more after this. I would continue this series if I happen to find them, but I'm not going to seek them out. I'm not going to like go on to continue the story. I will say that these are designed for young adults, I believe, and they're designed for manga readers, so the information is doled out in very like slow way. The first one was more exciting because he found these people, but this one had a lot of the family getting to know each other and not much of the actual mission happened in this. You did meet characters who were going to be important later, obviously, but just not enough to like really hold my attention. So although, like I said, if I found more, I would definitely continue to read them. I'm not going to necessarily seek them out. So this might be the last Spy Family that I read, but I'm very happy to have read it. And I'm happy to have read more translated work. I think I read a total of 4 translated works this month so far, or 3, which is good. That's like the only goal that I really have every year is to read more works in translation, and I haven't really been doing that, and we're already at the end of May, so, you know. Today I have to work a little. My husband is off of work, which is amazing. He's out working in the garden. We're gonna eat lasagna for dinner, I already mentioned. Then later this week, I just have to work a lot, so I don't think it's going to be a very exciting weekly update, but I think that's okay. Some of the weekly updates that I've been doing recently have been kind of long because we've been doing a lot, but because the weather's supposed to be crummy and because I have a lot to get done, I don't think we'll be doing too much. As far as what I'm currently reading, I am reading Moonlight Murder, which is the second in the Detective Auntie series. I saw that one come up and no one had grabbed it on Hoopla. It's an absolutely brand new release, so I wanted to grab it. I'm also reading Model Home by River Solomon. Physically, I'm reading The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea by Beth Sherman, which is part of a Jersey Shore mystery series. I'm still reading The Wedding by Dorothy West, which I just haven't been reading very much. I keep putting it down, but I will try to finish it. One of the things that I was contemplating was not doing TBR spin videos anymore, but I think I am going to continue doing them because I don't see another way to pick my next books and make it fun for me and you when I do that. But my TBR spin's going to be really behind. So maybe in the second half of the year, we need to do like a TBR spin catch up or something and try to read quite a few of the TBR spin books. How many can I read in a week or something like that? I don't know. All right. When I read some more, I'll let you know. It is May 28th. It's a Thursday. I finished another book so far in May, not that one, but I also got this package a couple of days ago and I keep forgetting to open it. I won this book in a Goodreads giveaway. This is the latest Min Jin Lee. Whoa, it's huge. And it's an arc. The margins are really wide and the chapters look short. This paper though is like extremely thin. Oh my god, 640 pages. Wow. I don't know when I would read this, but I'm super excited to get it, and thank you so much to Cardinal Press, which has got to be a subdivision of somebody or other. Oh, Hachette. It's a subdivision of Hachette, so thanks so much to Hachette and Cardinal for sending me this arc. This comes out 9/29/26, so I have a couple of months that I definitely could read this. I did not read Pachinko. I just recommended Pachinko to someone that I know, though, my BFF. I think she would really like that one. I am excited to get to this one, and I love this cover. I think it's so fantastic. I liked that when I first looked at it, I couldn't really figure out what it was. Like, it looked abstract to me or like a flower. I think that's intentional, and then you can see that it's a pencil. And look on the side, it has the pencil sharpener and then like little scraps of the pencil. I think this is really lovely. I'm not usually a serif font person, but I do also really like this font. Did I say this is American Hagwon by Min Jin Lee? Oh, 640 pages. Well, I have been in the mood for a bigger book. I don't know. This is like a very cool packaging. This is very cool packaging. And then I did also finish another book this week. I finished Moonlight Murder, which is the second in the Detective Auntie series by Uzma Jalaluddin. It's a new release. It just came out last week, or I just got it to the library last week, and I really enjoyed the series. I read the first in the series earlier this year because I had previously tried another book by this author, and I ended up unhauling it. I did it in a try chapter because it was like a traditional straight romance, and I really wasn't interested in that. Not because I didn't find the writing interesting, but because I just wasn't in the mood to read that, and I haven't been in the mood to read that kind of book. A murder mystery and a cozy mystery I will basically always be in the mood to read, and I will always be excited to read. This is definitely one of those books that goes along with the trope and with the trend of an older protagonist who has a skill set, you know, like that she didn't expect to use or that no one expected her to have, very much like the Thursday Murder Club, very much like Miss Marple, very much like the Mrs. Polifex series, which I love. In the first book, we meet Kosser, who has recently lost her husband. She lost her son quite a while ago, and losing her son made her disconnect from the rest of her family. She moved away out of the city, out of Toronto, away from her daughter and her daughter's family, and kind of secluded herself with only her husband and her best friend in a more sleepy area. But when her daughter calls her back to Toronto asking her for help, Kosser, of course, does go. Because as much as Kosser is isolated from her family, she still, of course, really loves them and wants to take care of them. It turns out that Kosser's daughter is suspected of murder, and so Kosser uses the skill set that she's always had and that she's been honing little by little of solving crimes to help her daughter out. So that's the first book. The second book, Moonlight Murder, sees us after the events of the first book, and Kosser has moved back to Toronto. She is just trying to navigate the relationship with her family that live there, so her grandchildren and her daughter. Now she has a little bit of a reputation as a detective auntie, so when her granddaughter has an issue with a friend at school, Kosser jumps into action and helps her granddaughter solve another case. So yeah, I really like this one. It's really fun. I like the progression of the familial relationships and the relationship with different people, and then we're definitely like meeting certain characters who are going to play more of a role in later books, and you can tell there's going to be later books because this one definitely ends on not a cliffhanger, because the mysteries within the second book are solved within the book, but right at the end someone asks Kosser for help, so we know that there's going to be another book, and we know who she's going to help, and we know not what the case is going to be, but a little bit who it's going to entail and who it's going to entangle for Kosser to figure out. There was a mystery that I thought was going to stretch out over more books, like a bigger mystery that we are introduced to in the first book, and they really wrap it up quite quickly in the second book, and I thought it was a little convenient. I mean, in a way I understand, because it is very close to Kosser, and we don't want her tortured throughout this series. We want her feeling a little bit free of this mystery to be able to do the things that she's going to do, and in a way they set up this character so that she needs to be free of this mystery in order to like move on with her life, but I also felt like it was a little tidy, you know, it was a little quick. But overall, I really liked it, and that was one more book that I read this week. It is Thursday, so I'm going to end this vlog tomorrow. I'm going to take my mother to an appointment tomorrow, then start a new vlog on Saturday. Saturday, the town south of mine, Ocean Grove, New Jersey, has a fair, so we're going to go to that. It's not like a fun fair, it's like a flea market, more like a market, I guess. But we always get a giant pretzel. I'm sure you've seen the giant pretzel on my channel if you've been watching for a while. This outdoor market happens twice a year, and the pretzels are always there, and I always get a pretzel twice a year, so very exciting. It's definitely like full-on summer. We had Memorial Day weekend last weekend, and you can definitely see it from the amount of people on the boardwalk, and you can see it from the kind of buzz, summer buzz in the air around us. But it's that nice in between where schools haven't ended, so it's not 100% summer yet. So we get like kind of a month until the end of June where the lifeguards are out. You do have to pay to get on the beach, but it's like not as crowded, especially during the week, as it will be when school is out and summer really sets in. We didn't do anything for Memorial Day weekend. We don't usually. Sometimes we have a barbecue with my dad, but we didn't do that. We mostly have just been staying home and hanging out. Oh, you know what we need to talk about is in the next vlog is the very end of Mini May. So Mini May has been going amazingly. I've read 16 books so far. Not all of them minis, really like 14 of them have been minis and 2 of them have been much longer books. I've loved it so far. I've been thinking a lot about what we can do next year for Mini May. I think we're definitely going to do a bingo board. I think we're going to do reading sprints. I had really intended to do reading sprints this week, but I chickened out. Truth of the matter is that I chickened out on doing reading sprints. I guess I could still do it today, but I'm not going to. It's been such a fun Mini May, so I'm going to try and scrape together some hosts next year. On the bingo board, there's definitely going to be prompts that are not just books, so that we can incorporate some of the other aspects of Mini May, but I'm really excited overall for that. And I'm excited to read the rest of my Mini May books that I want to read. Okay, I thought I was going to end the video there, but... oh no, wait, where did my books go? I did actually finish 3 more books at the end of the week. I finished The Need by Helen Phillips. This is the first Helen Phillips that I've read, and this is a unsettling tale of motherhood, borderline horror, climate fiction, sort of, kind of, but also if you're interested in like alternate personality, alternate dimension, doppelganger kind of thing, this is a good one as well. The Need by Helen Phillips follows Molly. Oh, that's right, Molly, because I was like, that's interesting that there's Mollys in multiple books that I like. I did enjoy this one. It's not my favorite. I've been wanting to read it for a very long time. Molly is a fairly new mother. She has like a toddler and a baby, and she is a, what is that called? Archaeologist, where she is digging in this site that lots and lots of relics have been found, and a lot of weird things turn up at this private site. So we're going back and forth between Molly in the present day. This opens with Molly hearing someone in her house. She is alone with the kids. Her husband is a musician and he travels a lot for work. So she's alone in the house. She hears someone in the house, potentially an intruder, potentially someone who's going to do them harm. Through the first chapter, as we see this happening to Molly, we see her thought process, and we see how she's trying to like wrangle the kids and how she's trying to keep hold of the kids during this dangerous situation, which is kind of jumping off point for like the whole book. And then the next chapter, we go back in time a few hours earlier, and then we do this for the rest of the book, which is like switch back in time, back and forth from not too far in the past to like the present day and what's going on. And we learn more about Molly's relationship with her husband. We learn more about her work. We learn more about her relationship with the kids. And it's a lot of very short chapters. And then there are also multiple parts. In the first part, we kind of see what's going on with the intruder, but we also learn more about this archaeological dig, and we learn that about these strange objects that Molly has started finding at the dig, and the, I guess, reception that they're getting, because this part of the thing of this being a private dig is that it's open to the public for tours so that it can pay for the dig or help pay for the dig. And so these new weird objects are becoming a focal point for the tours. I think that's all you really need to know, but I think something that I guess I knew but didn't know about this book, which I think would have been helpful for me going into it, is that it does have a lot to do with motherhood. I think when I heard this book pitched, it was pitched more as a weird, unsettling book about an archaeological dig rather than a weird, unsettling book about motherhood and the idea of motherhood, Molly's experience with motherhood. So I think that that's like worth noting, because the majority of this book is Molly and her children. And I have to say that the part that I really didn't like was the children. There's a reason why they're written the way they are and amount of them that you get, but I don't like to read about children. I don't like children. So, it was a lot, especially on the audiobook. I read the audiobook. I did like the audio narrator, but she does do the children's voices, which is a choice and annoying. It's interesting to read a book that you can't necessarily identify with the main character and what they're going through, because they're doing something like being a mother, which is something that I will never be and don't want to be and have never wanted to be. It's interesting to have to like suspend your disbelief just for the idea of like, you got yourself into this kind of thing, because that's a choice. Motherhood is a choice, a lot of times at least. So, it was interesting to be like opposed to this perspective, but also feel for the main character, definitely like understand what was going on inside the main character's head. I think it shows that Helen Phillips is a good writer. I have a couple of other Helen Phillips books, and I'm definitely interested in a lot of her other work, so I'm happy to have picked this one up. I love this cover too. It's really pretty. I think I would maybe keep this one. I don't know, actually. I think I would keep it and as like an example of a certain kind of book if I was the kind of person who always held up a book, but because I'm not, I might not keep it. The next book that I finished this week on the 28th was Falling by Christina Lauren. And I read this because I was at my office job and I just needed something quick. I didn't want to start anything and I didn't want to continue anything else that I was reading on audio at that moment. So I just picked up a very short story on audio, and this is by an author that I've never read from before. Falling is a spicy paranormal romance about a person who is at a party, a young woman. She's just recently moved to New York. She really doesn't know anyone, but she's been dating this guy for a couple of months. She's thinking about how she's going to break up with him at this party. And at this party is this kind of random guy who everybody seems to be really enamored of, but our main character is like, whatever. She feels like a pull towards him, kind of, but she's kind of like, oh, who is this guy who thinks he's so great or whatever. She does end up breaking up with the guy she's been seeing at the party, and just a few minutes later, she meets this mysterious figure, and then the story goes from there. And I think that's all you really need to know, except that we are also getting the male perspective. Of course, I can't remember his name. So we're getting this mysterious guy's perspective. And from his perspective, we're unclear of what kind of creature he might be, but we know that he has got some supernatural powers. I thought this was fine. Halfway through the story is 2 hours long. I read it on 2 times speed, so it was about an hour. About halfway through, I was like, I don't like this. There was a smutty scene kind of towards beginning middle, right? Which is fine. That's fine. But I was like, I don't get it. There's not going to be any substance to this story, which some of these short stories have like amazing story arcs, are amazingly written for such a short story, are intricately written for such a short story. But some of them, they wanted to put some sex in there, and so they built a story around it. And I was like, oh, that's what this one's going to be. But then it really redeemed itself in the second half, and I think actually getting the smutty part out of the way first was like an intentional choice. Interesting for the story. I've tried a chapter of The Unhoneymooners, I think, and then got rid of it. I don't think Christina Lauren is the romance author for me. I don't think I will be reading any of their longer work. It is a co-authorship, which I always find really interesting. How do two people write a book? How do best friends stay friends if they're writing books together? I find that really interesting. And I would definitely read another like short story from this duo, but I don't plan on reading any of the longer books. Overall, Falling was fine. And then the last book that I read this week was The Devil and the Deep Blue Sea by Beth Sherman. I finished this on the morning of the 29th, and this is the fourth in a Jersey Shore mystery series, which all takes place in Ocean Grove, New Jersey. They call it Oceanside Heights, New Jersey, and it mentions Asbury Park, even though they call that by a different name as well. So this is a mystery series that I just stumbled upon at a used bookstore one day and have since kind of fallen in love with. This series follows Anne Hardaway, who lives at the Jersey Shore. She's lived there her whole life. She is a ghostwriter. So even though these books start in the 80s, go through the 90s and into the early 2000s, she works from home, which is, you know, unusual for a lot of people at that time. She has to kind of keep up with technology, which is interesting in these books. So like in the early books, she doesn't have a cell phone or anything, but later she does, and she has the internet and stuff like that. So she kind of has to keep up with the times because her job as a ghost writer requires her to do so. She has mixed feelings about this small town because it is a town that revolves all around religion, basically. There are people who live there who are not part of the church of the town, but it is called like God's Square Mile, and a lot of the social aspects of this community are all around the church, which Anne is not a part of. Partly because at the end of her mother's life, when she and her mother were living there together, the townspeople were really cruel to her. Her mother had Alzheimer's, and a lot of the townsfolk were not kind to Anne's mother. Throughout the series, we find Anne coming across dead bodies and glomming on to different mysteries in this small town. And we also see like her friendships that she's made throughout the town, and we also see some love interests that she's had. And in this, the fourth in the series, we see her finding another dead body on the beach, and it looks like this young teen possibly took her own life, but there's also a witchcraft element which Anne gets intrigued by and also embroiled in. It's funny because I definitely think that a lot of these late 1990s, early 2000s mysteries had a witchcraft angle, because one of the other series that I really love, the Skip Langdon series, which takes place in New Orleans, also had like a witchy, you know, Wicca versus witchcraft, black versus white magic. So I think that that was like a very popular cozy mystery theme to write about at this time, and I think it kind of took the imagination, especially of mystery and murder mystery readers. And I think there was also a lot for authors to be able to do to differentiate between like black magic and white magic, or people using magic as a subterfuge for murder. So I really loved this one. I thought it was really good. I do love all the New Jersey references. They referenced Freehold in here. They referenced Cape May. They referenced Wildwood. They referenced Ocean City. They referenced Long Beach Island. So like fun stuff for a New Jerseyan. This is the second to last book in the series, the penultimate book in the series. So I'm super interested to see how this series ends. I wonder why Beth Sherman didn't read more, because I feel like these could only be more popular now. And Anne is a really interesting character because she's very self-sufficient. She has a strong individual character, but she definitely also like wants a man. Earlier in these books, they talked also a lot about her appearance and her weight, but in this one, notably in the early 2000s, that was dropped a little. So I think that's good and only bodes well for the next in the series. So those were 3 more books that I read this week. Now I'm definitely going to end the video. So let me know what you read this week. Let me know how your Memorial Day weekend was. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.